stuff. I'm going to be watching baseball games during this show.
I didn't get my act together in time for the early stuff
Going on, everybody? It's time for a little stochastic NHA show, going over Game 6 of the NBA Finals, potentially the last game of the NBA season. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm here hanging out with Terry for the next 30 minutes. Terry, have you been invested emotionally, financially, or in any other way yet to this NBA Finals? Because it's been a close series.
I tell you what, a little bit emotionally because I'm rooting for you to cash that Celtics ticket. I'm rooting for the Celts a little bit to, just reward my buddy Lou, who's a huge Celtics fan. So I found myself pulling for the Celtics a little bit more than I thought I would. I know I said the Warriors when we were talking about it last round, but seems like the heartstrings are going a little bit toward the Celts. I've watched every game. The depth to which I've been invested in them has come and gone with the closeness of the games in the fourth quarters. But yeah, I've been here a lot more than for the last few rounds anyway.
Do you care for the MVP debate at all? Because, we've had people now who, the discussion 2 days ago or 3 days ago now was, should Steph Curry win the MVP, regardless of who wins the series? People were saying, Steph Curry's been outrageously good in the series. Tatum hasn't played particularly well. Jaylen Brown hasn't played particularly well. But should the Celtics go on to win the series, was that enough for Steph Curry to win MVP? But now we've got people coming out saying, well, now Andrew Wiggins should be MVP because he played really well last game. It does seem like a lot of recency bias, kind of ignoring some of the rest of the series, but Wiggins is playing as well as he's played his entire career. Do you have any real kind of takes or any feels on the MVP conversation going on in the series?
I'm not ready for a world of playoff finals MVP Andrew Wiggins, to be quite honest. That would be a weird scenario, but he's definitely played well. Like you said, this is the best we've seen him probably in his whole career. He's found a really good role for himself with this Golden State team, and he's fit in nicely. So he's a good piece for them, but I can't see it not going to either Steph or Tatum, to be honest. Like, it's going one way or the other. I think it's going to whichever team wins. I think one of the two big stars is getting it. It's fairly straightforward to me. Not a huge debate. I could see Curry getting it, even if the Celts win, just on the back of, his overall play, but I don't think they're going to go that route. Like, I feel like a team like the Celtics, they'll want to reward one of those kids with it if they do get there.
So here's something else. Well, number one is people are so reactionary, particularly when it comes to some of these NBA Finals games where Wiggins was ridiculous last game. That's the best game I think he's played in his entire career, certainly in terms of the leverage of the game as well, because he's had some individual really good scoring games. But last game, when you consider, Game 5 of the NBA Finals series tied 2-2, massive stuff from Andrew Wiggins. But let's not disregard what's happened the rest of the series, because overall, I like to look at true shooting percentage as the best measure of efficiency. For the NBA Finals, Andrew Wiggins is a 51% true shooting percentage. Steph Curry is a little over 60%. League average is about 56%. So if we're looking at the series overall, Wiggins just hasn't shot the ball particularly well. I know he was really good last game, but on the whole, he hasn't been all that efficient. Steph Curry's been absurdly good from a scoring efficiency standpoint. Here's something else. NBA Finals stats. Andrew Wiggins. Here's how important Steph Curry is to Andrew Wiggins' production. Steph Curry, and we could go back to the regular season for this as well, because I have these numbers pulled up. Andrew Wiggins has a 49% effective field goal percentage with Steph Curry off the court during the regular season, 57.7% with Steph Curry on the court. So obviously Steph Curry had a massive impact in the regular season on Wiggins' efficiency. In the playoffs, with Steph Curry on the court, Wiggins has a 55.5% effective field goal percentage, 36.3% when Steph Curry is off the court. So, you start to ask yourself, so you start to say like, all right, Wiggins has played a really good series. I think he's been if we're just ignoring the rest of the season, career, all of that, if we're just talking about who have been the most valuable players in this series, I think it's Steph Curry 1. I think it's Wiggins 2, but Wiggins has been so effective, in my opinion, because of what Steph Curry does, because of the amount of gravity he pulls from defenses, because of the amount of attention he brings. That's what's allowed Andrew Wiggins to be so productive. So, we've got people saying stuff like, look how dumb the Timberwolves are. If they could have had this core of Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine, you're not getting that Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is this good in Golden State because he has Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. He was never going to be that guy while he was in Minnesota. So, long story short, I just kind of wanted to shout out that we have, Wiggins has played really well, but I think Steph Curry deserves some of the credit for Wiggins' high level of play. But that aside, we've got an NHA slate to talk about for not Wednesday night. I know we're doing the show on Wednesday because that's the time Terry and I talk about NHA, but Thursday is when the game actually happens. This is going to be our last NHA show of the season because, well, it's game 6 of the finals. Number 1, the series could end, but then number 2 also. If it doesn't end today, it ends over the weekend at the latest. So we won't be doing a show for that, but going through this, and we're going to be really diligent. We want to make sure we're giving people out the best prop picks possible for NHA when we're going on the final slate of the entire season. But also, if you guys
got the right slate this time.
Yeah, that's. Oh, sorry, what was that?
I said we've even got the right slate loaded up this time.
We do. We've got the right slate to talk about. And also, if you guys are signing up at NHA for the first time, make sure to use our promo code Awesemo. I should have asked if that changed, but I think it still holds true. Promo code Awesemo. All new users, $25 bonus on your first deposit. So make sure to sign up using our promo code if you are playing on No House Advantage for the first time. But heading into tomorrow's game, Celtics 4-point favorites. So the expectation is that we're going to get a game 7 in the series. Obviously not a lock. 4 points is a fairly tight spread, but Boston favored to win the game. Let's start on their side of the game. Looking at some of the props on the board, what stands out most to you from the Boston side?
Let's take a look. Boston side looks like our biggest number is on the unders. I was actually taking a look at some of the unders, and the Golden State side was a little bit higher on the unders as well here. But Derek White's assists or Derek White's points plus assists both pop up toward the top of the board here. The assists alone is a pretty big number, 87%. That's our best mark on the board. We've got him projected at 2.84. The line's 4.5. For the course of the entire playoffs, he is averaging, 2.7 in his 25.9 minutes a game. Across the finals, Derek White is presumably on this list somewhere. Hold on.
I'll pull up some of Derek White's numbers.
Yeah,
so
I've got his,
something else to keep in mind when it comes to Derek White. The Celtics are healthy right now, and it's game 6. I think we're going to see big minutes from the Celtics starters in this game.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, what happens? Well, if the starters are playing big minutes, that's less minutes for the role players because there's only so many amount of minutes in an NBA game. So last game, obviously a very high leverage game 5. The series was tied 2-2. We only saw 21 minutes out of Derek White. And I think that's probably more in line with what we should expect from him is, minutes in the mid to low 20s. If that's going to be the case, we're just not getting some very big assist numbers. You pointed out that the number we have over there, it's 4.5 is the over-under on NHI. Here are his assist numbers in the finals. 3, 1, 2, 2, 3. So the most assists he's had in the entire finals is 3. He hasn't even hit 4 when the number's 4.5. Then you go back to last series, he had a couple games where he had 5, he had a 6, but keep in mind also, Al Horford did miss time in the playoffs, Marcus Smart missed time. We've got a healthy team out there. It's just hard for me to think we're going to see those big minutes going to Derek White, particularly played 21 minutes last game. So I do really like the under there. It looks like way too high of a line.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. And like you're saying, even in the 28.5 minutes that he's gotten over the first 5 games per game, he's still only given us 2.2 assists for the finals. So I think we're safe even if he does get advanced minutes. And it just makes sense what you're saying about the tight rotation. Looking at last game, he was the first man off the bench, but he got a stint in the first, a long stint in the second, took the entire third quarter off, and then played 2 little chunks when they were trailing in the fourth. So it just looks like that's kind of going to be the nature of his game. Like you said, tight rotation. He'll be 20-ish minutes off the bench, and that's probably not going to be enough for him to get there. So I think that's a strong one off the top.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. And then something else to consider as well. Robert Williams has looked healthier the last couple of games. And, there's times where the Celtics go small. They'll take Robert Williams off the court fairly early sometimes in favor of going to Derek White and playing smaller lineups. But the last 2 games, 32 and 30 minutes from Robert Williams. Here's how valuable Time Lord is to the Boston Celtics. The last 3 games, which, by the way, the Celtics lost 2 of them, Robert Williams plus 21, plus 6, and plus 11 was his plus minus in those 3 games. It just has to be a priority for Boston to get bigger minutes to him as opposed to Derek White, which I think is going to be the case barring any kind of injuries or foul trouble. So you and I are both on the same page there. I like those unders for Derek White. What else is looking awesome?
So
We got awesome or Statastic, yo. I don't even know what we're calling Mike anymore these days. But
Yo.
Yeah, just saying. Joel Embiid is, and also, did you change your name and add space into it? All right.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I think we've always thought that Mike was. It's another thing because we know that Mike is a secret agent who pretends to be a Philadelphia sports fan, but because I think all this time he's been trying to convince us that he's awesome, yo. When he's actually awesome, yo. There's that extra space in between. He's been punking us the entire time. He's not who he says he is. That Mike is up to no good.
He's an imposter. Look at this guy.
But getting back to talking about this game in the Boston Celtics, what other props are standing out to you in our projections?
So one that I actually want to call out, just kind of on the back of what we were just talking about with Robert Williams, we've got his under for points. The line is 9.5. We've got him projected at 7.47 points, but we've only got him carrying a 20-minute projection. I feel like that's a little off given what we've seen from him in the last couple of games. So on the back of that, I'd be a little concerned about that one being pretty fragile if we're calling that a 70%er on the underside of it. He's a guy, he's averaging 7.6 points per game in 22.6 minutes for the playoffs. If we look at the finals, we can pull him up over here. And again, on and off the court a little bit, but we know that he's very capable when he's out there. And if it sounds like I'm stalling for time, I am. 7 points per game across the first five games of the finals in 25.2 minutes. So if we're giving him out toward that 30-minute mark, I think we get a little bit fragile around 9.5 points. It's still, maybe an appropriate line, but I think our projection where we've got it based on 20 minutes is probably not entirely accurate here.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing to keep in mind also, to your point before, is this is a Thursday game. We're doing a show on Wednesday, so projections and all that in minutes are going to get updated tomorrow morning. But I agree with you. I think that expecting only 20 minutes from Robert Williams is probably a little bit light, and it wasn't a couple of games ago because, I mean, his playing time to start the series was so difficult to predict. Yeah. Once again, because he has that bulky knee, which sometimes is giving him pain. It limits his minutes. So Game 2 of the series, we only got 14 minutes at a time. Where Game 1 of the series, we got 24 minutes. I remember going into Game 3 being like, I don't know how the hell to predict this guy's minutes because he's either the best or the worst play on the slate in the mid-range, and I couldn't figure out which one it was. But he's looked really healthy the last few games, and considering that we've seen 30-plus minutes in back-to-back games, I tend to think the minutes are probably more consistently going to be towards that 30 mark than underneath it. So, yeah, I would tread cautiously with Robert Williams. And actually, in terms of a prop where it's just over under, where there's been so much uncertainty with his minutes, I'd probably just stay away from him altogether for NHA purposes.
That makes sense. Yeah, just leave it on the board and not take it. I definitely wanted to call it out because it is sitting there as one of the more ripe plays based on how we've got it projected right now. So it definitely was worth talking through there. But yeah, that makes a ton of sense. If it's a little bit fragile either way and you're not really sure, just leave it on the table. There's plenty of different ones to choose from.
And then getting
some of the overs.
Yeah, and speaking of overs, one that I think makes sense, the over 1.5 threes for Marcus Smart. I know I have him projected north of that number, and looking at his game so far in the series, 3 3-pointers last game. Before that, 3 3-pointers, 3 3-pointers, none in the game before that. That was also a blowout loss. But in Game 1 of the series, 4 3-pointers. He had 3 3-pointers in the Game 7 closeout game against the Miami Heat. So overall, we're looking at in the last 6 games, Marcus Smart has had 3 or more threes in 5 of them, and we're getting a 1.5 threes prop here. I love the over on that number.
Yeah, that's a pretty sharp call. I like that one a lot. We're talking about a guy who's averaged 39.7 minutes over the last 3 games. He's going to be out there a ton for them just based on the way we expect this game to be played with the tight rotation. Important, obviously, game for the Celtics to kind of lock down on the defensive side of the ball, and we know how good he is on that at that. So he's just going to get a ton of playing time in this one. And looking at what he's done for the finals so far, averaging 34.8 minutes, taking 6.4, making 2.6, just on the average in less time than we're projecting him for. He's already clearing that by a full 3. So I mean, we are pretty comfy on that one. I think we've got it at 72%. Feels like it should maybe be higher, just based on the numbers, based on what he's doing on the average.
Yeah, and if you look at his regular season numbers, Marcus Smart averaged 1.8 threes per game. So it's over 1.5, not crazy over 1.5, but keep this in mind too. The regular season, you're getting 33 minutes per game out of Marcus Smart. You're getting way more from him in the playoffs, particularly in the finals. 40 minutes last game, 40 minutes the game before, 39 and a half the game before that. So competitive game, we're looking at 40 plus minutes for Marcus Smart. In fact, with this being game 6 and the Celtics down 3-2, don't be surprised if any of Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown play nearly the entire game. Jason Tatum might play.
I was just going to say, yeah, he's going to see 42, 44, something like that in this game. Like those three will be out there the entire game for the most part. And
Jason Tatum might not come off the floor the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the last 2 games. Just looking at the per 36 for the regular season for Smart too, taking 5.6, making 1.9 per 36. So I mean, we're still already pushing that, pushing at least a half a 3 over the line just on the average for that much time. So I think we're nicely clear on that one.
Anything else here from an over/under perspective on the Boston side of the game that really stands out? I know a lot of our projections are favoring more of the Warriors props as being higher percentage plays.
Asking for the Smart rebounding one is the top of our board in terms of the overs. It's sitting at 79%. It's a 3.5 line. He's averaging 4.2 for the finals. We've got him projected at 4.8 on the back of a couple additional minutes here. It feels a little bit more thin than the 3.1 does, even though it's at a higher percentage based on our projections. But I do think that one's probably on the board, just again, given so much playing time, capable rebounder who's out there. Jaylen Brown, by the same token, is sitting right at the same thing. He's a 6.5 line, 7.74 projected out at a 74% chance. So if you want to grab one or the other of the rebounding ones to build into a card, I think that works. Or maybe, do you call it like the Smart PRA? Is that in play for you? 22.5. He's averaging 20. He's projected for 25, averaging 24.8 for the finals as a PRA. That's another one. It feels thin, but on the back of a lot of playing time, I could easily see him getting there. And if we're calling the rebounding one kind of likely points, I think we could get there on that one. But I'd probably go for the rebounding one or the 3-pointer on its own.
Yeah, the 3-point is the one I feel best about. Just the number I cited before. It's not just that he's 2+ 3-pointers in these games. I mean, it's 3+ 3-pointers in 5 of his last 6 games. Yep. And the other thing too, how the Warriors have defended a lot in this series. By the way, the Warriors have played very, very well as a team by and large part on defense. But one thing they have done is they are allowing a lot of open threes to some of the Celtics role players. And then after the games, if they hit them, you got Draymond Green in press conferences saying like, it's a fluke. We don't have to worry about that. They're not going to hit threes at this high of a percentage. It's like, well, you're leaving Derek White, a professional NBA player, wide open from 3 just on the back of, he's not a great 3-point shooter. But if they're going to continue to leave guys like Marcus Smart, Derek White wide open from 3, they're going to make some of them. So
yeah, it changes those percentages a little.
Yeah, I mean, we've just seen him take so many wide open threes that the one I feel the best about is that over 1.5 threes by Marcus Smart. And then one other one also, just because I think the minutes are going to be so substantial for the Celtics core guys. And, I think they're going to be for the Warriors as well. But with that said, the Warriors still have another game to play with. And I don't necessarily think they're going to go out there and play Steph Curry, say, 48 minutes or Klay Thompson, well over 40 minutes. They usually tend to be a little more conservative with their playing time. Boston doesn't have that kind of cushion. So I look at the 6.5 rebound prop for Jaylen Brown. We have him projected for 7.7. And once again, another one where you could make a case that maybe Jaylen Brown plays 46 minutes or something totally absurd in this game. So I feel pretty good about over 6.5 rebounds for Jaylen Brown. As is, he's been averaging right around that in the series, and that is playing closer to 40 minutes. He played 44 last game. He had 9 rebounds. We're going to see big minutes out of Marcus Smart Marcus Smart also, but Jaylen Brown in game 6. So I like that over rebound number.
Yeah, I think that one makes a lot of sense sitting at the second spot on just beneath the Smart one. And like you said, Brown played 44 last game, 40 the 2 games before that. He's averaging 7.4 boards per game for the playoffs. I think that one we're totally fine getting to that on the expectation of a few additional minutes beyond the average, what we've seen already. And considering he's already passed it in the average, I think we're pretty safe going to that one too.
All right. Anything else to bring up from the Boston side? If not, we will jump over to the Warriors.
The Just since we talked about how our minutes projection is probably light on him, keep an eye on the Robert Williams rebounding one as well. That's sitting at 8.5. We've got him projected at 8.9 on the back of that 20-minute projection. So assuming that jumps tomorrow to like a 30-minute mark, that might go up, might gain a little ground and get into the 65 to approaching 70% range, depending on where the projection lands. So that's one to just keep an eye on. If we're keeping an eye on the unders going the other way, keep an eye on this one on the over side.
All right, so let's go and talk about the Warriors side of the game and potential closeout game for the Warriors, up 3-2 in the series. If they win this, it'll be yet another championship ring for the Golden State core guys, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala. Also, these guys would be pulling in another ring. So looking at the Golden State Warriors in a closeout game, they've been in this situation before, but which props do you think they could close out on and win some people who are watching some money over on NHA?
So there's a couple really juicy looking, boring ones to talk about on the under side of things. We'll talk about that in a sec, but let's jump to the overs because those are more fun. And we can talk about Andrew Wiggins again right off the top, sitting in at 87% or on a 5.5 rebounding line.
Yeah.
We've got him projected at 7.7 rebounds. Got him projected for 36 minutes. He's been over 40 minutes each of the last 3 games, 43, 43, and 40. So averaging 42 minutes over those 3 games. I think we might even be a little light on the minutes projection. So I think that one's pretty killer off the top of the board there. Just grab the Wiggins rebounds and run with them.
Yeah, and I mean, just look at these recent rebound numbers from Wiggins, and they've been crazy. The last 2 games, Wiggins has 13 and 16 rebounds. The 16 was a career high for him. And, what a time to have a career high in rebounds.
Seriously.
Then game 5 of the NBA finals. But then he bounces back 13 in the game after that. His minutes have been huge. He's playing a bunch of minutes, 42.5 minutes last game, 43.5 the game before. So for sure, Golden State has no trouble putting him out there to play bigger minutes. And you just look at the numbers now overall for the series. And what was that? 5.5 is the, so 5.5 rebound prop for Andrew Wiggins. The least amount of rebounds he has had in the last, 12 games now is 5. And overall in this series, 13 rebounds, 6 rebounds, 7 rebounds, 5 rebounds, 10 rebounds in the closeout game against the Mavericks. So he's only been under 5.5 rebounds in 1 game in the series. And it was a game where he had 5 rebounds. So with that in mind, I feel very, very good about it's just a wrong number.
Yeah. He's averaging 9.4 for the finals. He's averaging close to double the line. That one seems like a no-brainer, kind of a smash spot. So I definitely like that one off the top of the board. With that in mind, do you ever, when you're considering these, like, would that take away a little bit from the Draymond one, or does that keep the Draymond one just as strong for you? Like, do you mind putting multiple rebounding props from the same team into a card like this? Because the Draymond one is sitting right there, 81% are at the top of the board as well. That's a 6.5. We've got him projected at 8.3. Draymond doing Draymond things, averaging 34.3 minutes over the last 3, 35 minutes last game. I think there's certainly, the ability to get there, but does it diminish it for you at all? If we're thinking Wiggins goes out, has another big rebounding game, do you not like putting multiple ones into the card from just a game theory perspective?
No, and this is the main reason why. So one of the reasons that the over on rebounds projects well for guys like Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, well, other than the fact that the numbers are just low when relative to their production in the series, Looney isn't starting anymore. Yep. And Looney is, without him on the court, that's just a rebounder you're taking away. And then where do those Looney rebounds go to? Mostly Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins. There's obviously other guys that could pull down rebounds as well, but the guys that are going to pull down more of the rebounds are going to be Draymond and Wiggins. And something else also, Draymond, I'm pretty sure he tied an NBA Finals record by fouling out 3 times in the series last game. So there's obviously upside for more playing time from Draymond. He got 35 minutes last game. He wasn't bad from a counting stats perspective. He had 8 rebounds, 6 assists the game before, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. But he continually is getting himself into foul trouble, just dumbass fouls in this series, which maybe not that out of character for Draymond.
Like I said, he's doing Draymond things.
Yeah, but still, last game, 35 minutes, 8 rebounds. The game before, 33 minutes, 9 rebounds. Foul issues in both of them. If we get to a spot where he's able to avoid fouls, we're probably going to see a double-digit rebound game from Draymond. I've actually been betting some of the alternate lines for Draymond throughout the playoffs, but in this series in particular. At first glance, a lot of people are like, well, you're an idiot. Draymond's been terrible in the postseason. Yeah, from a real-life perspective, sure, but he's pretty consistently hitting the overs with his rebounds and assist props. The last couple of games, once again, his rebound props have been 6.5, assists 5.5. He's done a good job of hitting the overs on those recently. So yeah, I still like the overs for Draymond here, assuming that Looney once again comes off the bench.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I think like you said, by the numbers, it's sitting right there. I was curious how you looked at it in terms of putting the multiple guys for the same stat, the same prop together on the same card. But everything you said makes sense. And especially the Looney factor. I hadn't really been considering that. The Draymond one is maybe a little bit more thin. Like we're not getting him averaging essentially double what the line is, but he's well over the 6.5 line in his average for the finals. So I like that one. I think we're comfy there. And then just looking around, like, would you go to any of the PRAs, like the Wiggins PRA 24.5, the Draymond PRA 20.5, since we're expecting those guys to have big rebounding nights? Draymond's average for the finals is only an 18 PRA. But like you said, he's gotten into foul trouble, fouled out of some games here and cut his own minutes down a little bit. We've got him projected at a 23.6 against the 20.5 line as a 72%er. It feels maybe a little thin, like that's maybe a little fragile around his ability to stay in the game. Would you be looking at any of those, or were you just kind of look to give him one thing to do, like with the rebounding prop?
I think the rebound prop usually, and because I'm happy you brought this up, because I usually like the PRAs more, just because there's more avenues to get there. You and I have talked about this over the course of the season, but even with that said, the rebound number, particularly for Wiggins, is so low. And even to Draymond for an extent, these guys are both benefiting directly in the rebound department from Looney being off the court, that I'd rather stick with the rebounds. And then we talk about the underside for the Warriors. There's a number of unders that look really strong, starting particularly with Jordan Poole. And I think this is probably going to be our most confident play of the entire game.
Yeah, not to bury the lead here, but we've got a few 99 and 95 percenters. It's basically anything for Jordan Poole. Any of the props seem like virtual locks just based on where they're projected. The PRA is sitting at 26.5. We've got them projected at 16. We've got him projected for 29 minutes. Over the last 3 games, he's averaged 19. So 14 minutes, 21, 24 going back, 3 games back in time. So I think there's plenty of room on that one. If we take a look at the finals average for Poole, he is averaging 21.4 minutes and is 16.2 PRA. So we are just well apart from that 26.5 line. They're 10 points or 10, PRA total up above what he's doing. I'm very comfy with that one.
Yeah. And also I'll explain why when it comes to Jordan Poole, because I understand there's a lot of people that like Jordan Poole quite a bit.
Sure. Makes amazing shots at the end of the half.
Yeah. He hits, he's good for one crazy half court heave per game. But here's the issue with Jordan Poole outside of that. He does nothing else. He doesn't play defense particularly well. He's not a good distributor. He's just somebody who takes a lot of shots and is sometimes efficient, sometimes not. So, but also plays, with guys that are going to enable him to get a lot of easy shots. Here's the stat line for Jordan Poole last game. He played 14 minutes. He scored 14 points and had no other stats. The thing that I take away most from that is that he played 14 minutes. If he's going to play 14 minutes, he's just not going to have the amount of playing time available to him to accumulate a lot of stats. And then also you think, all right, we're in game 6 of the finals now. Steph Curry is going to play his minutes. Clay's going to play his minutes. There just isn't that many extra playing time to go around to a guy like Jordan Poole. Then you also have to consider Andre Iguodala's back from injury, although he's kind of been a minor part of the rotation. But Gary Payton's back. Payton's ahead of Poole in the rotation right now. Payton's played really well at times during the series off the bench. And when you look at last game, we got 14 minutes from Jordan Poole, and it was Payton actually closed last game and played 26 minutes last game for Poole. If Poole for Gary Payton, if Payton's going to play 26 minutes, just where are you finding those other minutes for Jordan Poole? And that's kind of the issue here, is that it's whoever plays better between him and Payton. Then also depending on the game flow, if the Warriors are up in the game, they need defense, they're going to go with Payton. If they're down a lot, maybe they go with Poole for the extra offense. But either way, Payton's the preferred guy for Steve Kerr off the bench. I personally think Gary Payton's a better NBA player than Jordan Poole. And there just isn't enough playing time to go for somebody who has pretty significant props here. We've got a points line of 8.5 for Jordan Poole. He played 14 minutes last game. You mean to tell me he's going to score like 1.5 per minute? Probably not. That's those are Steph Curry rates. Steph Curry is averaging about a point per minute for this entire series. You need 50% more out of that from Jordan Poole basically to be able to hit the over. So I love the unders for Jordan Poole. They all make sense. And I think we could close with that, Terry. That is our most confident play for the last NHA show you and I do. Hammer the unders with Jordan Poole. Hopefully he doesn't go out and make 4 half-court shots at the end of each quarter, but who's to say? Guys, thank you very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck. Hope you guys enjoy game 6.